You ain't gotta say my name. You ain't gotta say my name. And you ain't gotta say a thing. Just know that I am here. And you ain't gotta say my name. You ain't gotta say my name. And you ain't gotta say a thing.
All right. Welcome back to the Good Leader Podcast. I am with my co-host, Dave Miller. We're going to be here at the Gain Station. For the future, this is going to be our location. That's what me and Dave were talking about.
Home of the Good Leader Podcast, Gain Station Gym.
So it's a good collaboration, and working with local businesses is like part of the whole branding of the Good Leader Podcast. And then we're going to kind of go into get into some of the things that are going on here at the gym. So I don't know if you want to touch on any of those, Dave, like anything particularly you want to mention.
Well, first off, we've only been open for 4 months, but we have been nominated for Best of the Central Coast by the SLO County Tribune. Voting is going on for that right now, so if you want to just look it up on the internet and cast your vote for the Gain Station.
Yeah, that's cool.
We're pretty proud of it. You know, we're young in the area, but we're making gains.
And I consider myself like a gym connoisseur of sorts.
Yes.
So I would say it's a good gym. It's 24 hours, has a very good aesthetic. Everyone here is friendly. Dave is always super friendly here at night. Everyone's personable. That's how me and you met and networking. You know, I think people sometimes take going to the gym with just like working out, but it's also where you meet like-minded people who are also working on other things. So that's how you connect and network for young men.
Well, and also working this out with you is kind of part of the angle that we like to go with is building a strong community.
Yep.
And so, we'll, make outreach, to anybody who's out there, trying to build that. Everybody's welcome here.
It's cool because even some of the guys I talked to in Ventura County, I've talked to them about maybe coming down here to do some of the podcast episodes, and they're interested because some of them are very much into to working out, to bodybuilding and things like that. So I think it'd be a good collaboration, all around. So it'll be cool.
Absolutely.
And also shout out to our EZF Media. He's the one always recording us, helping us out, putting this on with his technical expertise. Is there anything you want me to hit on, Miguel? Anything going on with the EZF Media you want us to touch on?
No, just hit me up for all your podcasting needs.
Yep. All right, so we're going to get right into it a little bit. The first topic I kind of wanted to touch on and see what your guys' opinions were on this was the whole ceasefire in the Middle East. And the reason I want to touch on that is just because it seems like a lot of people were calling for the ceasefire, with Palestine and Israel. And now that they got it, you kind of see these mixed reactions of, some people are like, hey, this is what you wanted, so you think they'd be happy, but you kind of see some people still almost not rallying for conflict, but almost they're not saying anything. So I've always to me, it's kind of weird. It's like, isn't this what you wanted? You had to seem that like, hey, whether you don't or do like Donald Trump, like you're going to get your end goal was achieved, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
It seems weird that way, but it's just for whatever reason, there's a demographic out there that is just diametrically opposed to a particular person or people being involved in something good.
Yeah.
They've been programmed to think one thing or another, and if that particular individual is involved, it's got to be bad.
Yeah.
Or so I don't know. It's a totally weird frame of mind to be in. You've made a victory. Palestine is free. Suppose this is the path that it's going down.
Yeah.
Isn't this what everybody wanted? Now they don't even know. It's like they don't know what to do with themselves now. So they found something that they can dedicate their lives to, and then also that rug got pulled out from under them, and they're just floundering.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I saw too. I saw some people. I think the only prominent, Democrats I saw that kind of gave Trump some kudos about it was Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton.
That surprised me.
And then some other ones won't even mention his name in the context of anything. It's almost like they kind of somewhat try to take credit for it, I guess, in a way, like, well, when I was there, I did this, and that's why they're able to, and it's kind of, which it's like, okay, even if that's part of it, I think sometimes you gotta give credit where credit is due, and I think that's sometimes the point of the podcast is like this, that men you don't always have to be best friends to to be working towards the same goal, and that's kind of what it was. Like you said, this was the goal, right? So with that goal, getting that goal, why isn't there more? It seemed to me more like, okay, I don't like Trump, but he did this. But instead, you kind of see, I've seen everything from, well, he's involved in it, so it's not a real peace. It's not a real ceasefire, or
Right.
it's not going to last, or someone's going to sabotage it. And I mean, there's all kinds of things that can go wrong with anything. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
any type of deal, it can go sideways. But you would think there'd be more of a like, okay, well, this is a good first step,
Right.
So it's kind of crazy seeing that.
The truth of it is, though, I mean, when you want to relate it to that way, to being good men and doing good deeds and
Yeah.
stuff like that, a lot of times, I mean, the credit shouldn't even matter.
Yeah.
If you're just doing right, it shouldn't be about the accolades or anything like that. But yeah, there should be at least an acknowledgement, kind of a head tilt, to say, hey, this went right.
Yeah, I think there's a quote that says something like that. Says what does it matter, like who gets the credit, as long as it gets done. And it kind of leads me into my next part of it, where I kind of talk about it's this thing that I keep seeing, which kind of just, I don't know if I'm the only one, it's just my perspective on it. I know Minio kind of talked about it, but I kind of wrote it down in this way. It's like, yeah, people living in one country pledging loyalty to another country, but they have served or fought for neither country.
True.
And so it's kind of like, it doesn't make any sense to me, because when you see, this is why I don't like celebrity culture. I always am very much about, like, to me, and this is not, I guess it's a generality, but I just think celebrities don't know shit. Like, I think they live in a bubble of money that we probably can't even fathom, and they're very isolated by their team, so they don't really know what's going on, right? So to me, it's like when you see these countries, like I was watching saying a lot of celebrities were like, oh, we're leaving the USA because we don't like how it is. It's like, okay, but you're not moving to these countries that you advocate for. Who's moving? Are you getting guys moving to Palestine or in that area? Said nope, they're gonna move someplace completely else. So it kind of makes me question, like, why do you guys advocate so hard for countries that you don't either want to be in or be involved in rebuilding or getting them more stabilized? It doesn't make any sense.
It does kind of seem like it's almost a desperation to be a part of, like, a cause, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
But the part that kind of bugs me about it is always the underlying theme is a victim oppressor storyline.
Yeah.
And so it's always, one class is oppressing somebody no matter what, just because they're not doing as well as somebody else over here, and that may not be the truth.
Yeah.
A lot of times you just have clashing cultures.
Yeah.
And some are, not all cultures are created equal, and some can be more successful than others.
And I think sometimes what I do is I also see like this weird compromise. Like, one is I see where I've seen the interviews with like extreme, jihadists or who are affiliated with, or used to be affiliated with Hamas and things like that, where they're very much like, like the Western, like more liberals that are very much advocating for them, where they tell them straight out, you would not be welcomed in our society. Like, we will kill you, we would stone you, we would treat you like shit. And then even being told that, they're just like, well, I hate Trump so much, I'm with it's like
gays for Palestine.
Yeah. And then I saw on the other end, like I was seeing, I think in Chicago, where they're saying that there was being money put on the heads of, federal agents, and they're thinking that it's being funded by like the cartels or things like that.
I saw
so
that.
It's like, okay, so now you're willing to side with the side of cartels to kill federal officers because, again, you don't like something that's going on politically. And I always tell people, I said, whether you don't have to like everything Trump does, even the immigration reform, which I think is a lot of people's biggest issue. I'm like, how do you intend to make positive change if all you do is like, you want to just protest about it, you want to cause damage about it, but you never want to do the things that get like things done. You don't want to advocate for immigration reform. You don't want to vote. You just want to do it. It's almost like by force. They think they could do it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's never a discussion or a negotiation or anything like that.
Yeah.
But that also seems to be kind of the natural result of some people who have like points of view that just don't exist in an objective reality.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think, we shouldn't have borders as a country, and millions of people from wherever can just flow right over, or you think, a man can be a woman, or something like that. I mean, you already don't have like the parameters to operate logical thought, you know? And so at that point, it becomes easy to justify violent actions to try to get your point across, because you're not
willing to debate. You don't have a.
You're not existing in the real world.
And I said one of those things too, where with people I kind of saw like where it was like Gavin Newsom was talking. This is an old video, but he was talking about how he was like, oh, I think it was like most like half of blacks and Hispanics don't have checking accounts. It was something like that. Some statistic he made up, and Adam Carolla was like basically questioning him on it and kind of saying like that's not true. He says like that would be like, we know majority of California is Hispanic. You're telling me most of it, we're all rolling around with just cash in our pockets. Yeah. Like no one has a checking account. And so to me, where I kind of tell people, and sometimes people get like where they're like, why are you against the Hispanic culture, you're Mexican? I say yeah. And I said, so to me, I would rather our people from Mexico or Hispanic descent come legally, get paid fair wages, and be able to move up, rather than what they're telling you is, hey, come illegally, you can work in the fields and you can make our beds and clean our fucking toilets, and that's a good living for you. Like, I'm like, and so to me, it's kind of like you're telling us as a whole to just accept what you're willing to give us, and we should be happy with that, and don't do it the right way, because the right way is going to allow you to make progress as a people. You know what I mean? And Adam Carolla brought the point of like, why is this not an issue with like the Japanese culture or other cultures that have been like, because they're being taught like, no, you know, why do they buy certain stores and things like that? They're being taught like generational wealth, start a business, do something, don't you know, play the game and play it to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And hard work counts.
Yeah,
you know, whereas like a lot of these things would be framed, you know, under like a kind of a guise of compassion.
Yeah,
but then it's really just a cloak for the bigotry of low expectations, you know, because then it's just like goes through, oh, well, you know, this illegal immigration one, who's going to clean your toilet? Who's going to pick your fruit? It's just like, that's all these people are good for you for, you know, you're actually giving yourself away, that you think so little of these people that they can't actually be expected to do things the right way and then climb the ladder that way. They have to come in under the radar and be like the, you know, basically the new slave caste.
And yeah, and I 100% agree with that. To me, I look at it like, I was thinking about that earlier today when I was like kind of like just prepping for the podcast. I'm like, you know, it's like, instead of like, you know, Hispanic culture, especially in California, is prominently in agriculture. So it's like, instead of just trying to be the field worker, why are you trying to move up in the company and own the company and get more of a foothold in agriculture? And that's, to me, my mindset, where they're almost trying to tell a lot of people that, I don't want to say it's not like they're uneducated, because it has nothing to do with school, but like you said, being taught to believe like, no, be happy with working in the fields. And I'm saying, no, we should be running the company.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and that's the difference. And they said it shouldn't matter so much about like you're looking at the small picture, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of the way I look at it, is like, have a little bit more faith in yourself and your culture or your people to believe that you can do more, rather than being told like, hey, eat the fucking crumbs off my table and be happy with it.
Yeah. In order to do that, I mean, there are some systems that you do actually have to learn how to negotiate, be able to comply with, you know. And when you kind of operate outside that framework, that actually kind of creates a cage for yourself, you know, because then they establish systems that actually hold you there.
Yeah, and I think like me, like you being in different environments, like in the military, and you talked about the jail and prison environment before, I think we've learned that just because someone is your same color skin does not mean that they're your friend. You know what I mean?
No.
Like it doesn't. Like, people don't understand that. In the military, I learned that. In law enforcement, I learned that. It's like, it's really like, you know, what Martin Luther King said is true. It's the content of their character. Because I've met people where we were not the same race, but we grew up the same. So you have the same kind of set of beliefs and the same kind of goals, and that kind of makes you more aligned than just saying, hey, I'm Mexican, you're Mexican, so let's just be on the same shit. Like, because you know what I mean? I try to tell people that it's like, you know, you need to align yourself with people that also bring you up, not just because, you know, you think that you should be with them. You know what I mean? Because sometimes they become your worst enemy. Yeah. So it's kind of just something to think about. And then the next thing I was going to bring up was the Charlie Kirk incident, and just the rise of like the character versus politics. And the way I look at this, and kind of was how I kind of wanted to talk about it was, you know, a lot of the people that I saw advocating for like death and violence towards his family, towards him, towards anyone that was, you know, they consider it like conservatives or Christian based. To me, it's like it has nothing to do with politics. That's all your character. Yes. So those people, it's like, to me, it's like you don't want to have a discussion. What you're showing is very low character, and no one. For myself, I don't see any of those people and think, wow, well, you're so tough. Look at you threatening people. I honestly think they're cowards and they're pussies most of the time. It's like you're doing it over the internet. I said you're doing it thinking you're going to be somewhat anonymous, and that's why when they're getting their, you know, they're fucking around, they're finding out, whether it be through whatever way, they're almost surprised. And I think that's, to me, part of what social media has made people too comfortable with. I had put up a video of a guy where this kid kind of takes a swing at him. This guy counter punches and knocks him out. And this guy said, why does this always happen to these guys? I said, because they think this is the social media comment section, right? Where they're just going to keep like poking the bear, consistently doing stuff, and there's not going to be a consequence. And that's not the way it is. And it's like, and I'm not a person that's advocating for violence. It's just more of like saying that you say things without thinking about what you're saying. So like, that's why from like on social media now, like I don't go back and forth with people that say anything negative. If they have any type of insult or just negative thing, a lot of times I'm just basically ignoring them, because to me they're kind of irrelevant. Like that's the way to me I look at it, like you lashing out on social media to say something negative towards me and I don't know you. It just proves to me how irrelevant you are in your life, because I don't really care what you have to say, and it's not a good conversation. I'm not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind.
Yeah, there's no engagement that has to be made, because there's not even like a point that was brought up, you know? So there's really not a discussion. So, okay, you want to take that tack? Fine.
And I'll see some guys, because they'll have a good question. Like sometimes a guy will have a good question. It'll be something like, oh, you know, how do you know this is this and this? But then they'll end it with, you know, MAGA are idiots. And then you're kind of like, you were right up until that point, and then at that point it's like you just have to like throw an insult in because that's what you've been taught, right. You know, or something, which at that point it makes you just sound like stupid, right? Because you're not even asking. Now the question becomes irrelevant.
Well, it becomes less of a question. I mean, and that added statement right at the end becomes the disqualifier in their mind. So anything you have to say is irrelevant. You know, no matter what I said about it first, you know, I'm just going to cut you off because, you know, now you're an idiot, or you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, or something, you know, something like that, you know, and it's lazy.
Yeah. And I kind of thought about that because I had, there was one guy, I can't even remember what I had posted, and he just said something just out of nowhere, not even to me, just I guess as a general comment, where he was just like, you know, he's like, oh, you know, Charlie Kirk, he's been 30 days sober, this and that. And so, and I look at the guy's picture, and he's some guy, he looks like he works in a fucking soup kitchen, and he's holding like a knife, and I'm thinking like, yeah, I know you want to be tough. I can tell by your comment you're trying to be tough, but it's almost like, if anything, I feel more sorry for you because your profile picture, the way you're acting, and your comment says that you're really a pussy.
Yeah, exactly.
And instead of engaging in or having a question or having some thoughtful kind of insight, you just are like going on people's, you know, pages to comment negatively. And me, I tell people, I think me and you talked about this, right? I spend 0 minutes of a fucking day going on anyone's page I don't like to like comment on stuff that I don't care about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like it doesn't make any sense to me.
It's a waste of energy. It's not going to go anywhere. I mean, but that's people that do actually live in like an objective form of reality. Yeah, you know, just because there's nothing down this path. You know, or you've seen it a million times. Already know it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to spend my energy somewhere else where it can actually be effective.
Yeah. And what do you think is causing that? Like, what would you say is it? Like, what do you think with? I don't know if it's just young. I want to even say it's not even just younger men, because I've seen older guys do it too. Like, just what do you think is like prompting that kind of behavior? Like me, like I just think it's the social media, the atmosphere of them kind of doing it, like, you know, kind of behind the safety of their, you know what I mean? Because I just don't ever see guys doing that in real life. I've never had a person just come up to me and be like, you know, fuck you, you fucking conservative.
Yeah.
So I don't get where it's why they do that, but that's something I can think of.
It's funny, man, because, you know, I'll walk around with like a MAGA hat on sometimes. And it's like I can see people, you know, giving me like the side eye and stuff like that. A lot of them don't really have like the guts to say anything. The only person who ever said anything negative to me was like a 14-year-old girl I was walking into a store. She's walking out. Oh yeah, I'm MAGA, and all that. And I was like, well, I can't even engage with this person anyway. I'm like, oh, sure. I would end up being the bad guy no matter what.
You're
so
lose. Like as a 14-year-old, you're like, am I gonna? What did they say? If don't argue with the fool, because from a distance you can't tell who's the fool. type of deal.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, the cultural aspect of how we gather information has really tilted to rather than facts and actual information, it's more prodding and emotional response.
Yeah.
And so that's what it tends to be designed at. And it's all 5-second clips of this. Not a whole lot of context, so you don't really get a whole story.
Yeah.
But you get something that makes you upset.
Yeah.
And that's the emotional response that a lot of times they're going after. So like I say, if it makes them upset, then it's going to actually keep them tuned in to the next 5-second clip that's going to piss them off even more. Yeah. And then that's just going to build up into them. And that's all they're going to hold on to, and they're actually going to consider that being informed.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, and that's why I try to like at least with my content, and I got the advice from this bro who told me was basically that it was it needs to be entertaining, fun, or informational. And she never said it has to be negative. So a lot of times when I see things, I'm like, this is kind of something, but I kind of know it's leaning more towards the negative. I don't do that. Like I even find myself when I see guys that are even somewhat on the same page, but very more negative, where it's just like constant these clips of just like basically talking shit about people. It just becomes like kind of like redundant, and I almost feel like it takes away from them. You know what I mean? It takes away from their shine. Like it's like, dude, you're punching down at this point. You know what I mean?
Right.
On them instead of building up. And that's kind of where I'm kind of like, I think that they kind of lose sight of that, and I think they lose sight of it just because of the social media attention of it.
Well, along those lines with the social media aspect, I mean, a lot of it has become monetized, and so it's all based on engagement farming.
Yeah.
And so again, you want to spur an emotional reaction for somebody to be hanging on what you're going to say next. And so it's a lot of like engagement farming out there rather than, again, actual information. And even like some of the, like say the people who claim to be conservative sources or something out there, they'll take like a 5-second clip of something and then throw their little spin on it. And if you don't look into it any further, you might miss something that's actually really going to give you a full picture.
Yeah. And also think if you're not open-minded, you miss like sometimes like I would say like nuggets of knowledge that you can get even from the other. Like I don't like really particularly Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton, but the fact that they were willing to say, hey, this is a good thing, this is that, kind of shows a little bit about how I think it was today on a podcast I was listening to, the guy said it kind of shows like, yeah, they talk shit, but they're playing the politics of it. They don't really believe it. What the problem is, a lot of the younger generation, like you said, don't look into it and they believe it. You know what I mean? It's to them, it's not just shit talking. It's like, they're kind of like really like, oh, he really is a Nazi. He's really a fascist. And I tell people all the time, if you think about that, how does that make, because I've had people say different things. I've had people be like, America can't be, pro-Israel, but you guys are also Nazi fascists. I'm like, how does that make any, like, isn't that like,
doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, they're like, you have a black friend, but you're also a racist.
You got from like A to Z by way of 1, 2, 3. Yeah,
but you realize but you kind of realize that they don't really care about facts, or like you said, it's their feelings. Everything is being driven by this idea in their head. And I almost think, for me, what I've kind of seen from it is for them to admit they're wrong is to admit defeat and to admit that they have aligned themselves with a cause that's wrong. And I think that's why when the whole thing happened with the Charlie Kirk stuff, you saw so many people like, and I tell people this, like, you don't have to be conservative, you don't have to be MAGA, you don't have to be America First, you can be somewhere in the middle. But a lot of people, I think, them promoting and wanting death kind of push they realize, like, I'm like, how does that party, whether it's Democrats or any party that does that, like, what positivity is coming from that? Nothing.
How is that even any sensible human value?
Yeah, it's like,
I mean, you shouldn't be championing anybody just getting slaughtered for talking.
Yeah.
There's no justification for that whatsoever.
I think the way they justified it and what I saw was one of them they were saying, oh, well, what about what about in Palestine? What about in Chicago? What about, it's like, no death is right. That's not what it is. It's just saying, glorifying it and kind of making it to like a joke or something as is not the right way to go about it. And I think they were kind of missing the point. You saw some people get it. I think they kind of realized, like, damn, I'm aligned with a group of individuals that's lost their fucking minds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
I don't want to be associated with
I don't want to be associated with them. And this is like my knowledge for these maybe people that don't think about it. It's like, if you can't have a pet snake. If you're aligned with someone who wishes death upon other people and negative things upon other people, don't ever let that person down or cross that person in any type of way, whether it be on purpose or not, because what are the things they're going to be wishing upon you? Death, bad things. They're going to, you know what I mean? All that negativity has to go somewhere. I've never met anyone that's been negative like that and that doesn't turn that negativity towards their friends sooner or later.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah,
it's kind of crazy. I think the last thing I want to talk about was just with what do you think about men's mental toughness and responsibility, and how that turns into like the accountability piece for young men? Like, what could we do more, I guess, as older men for the younger men to guide them more? Or is there anything that we can do? Part of me just kind of think it's 50-50. Like, they have to want to be open to it, to listen, and also they have to be taught that there's value in some of the things that we're trying to show them, as far as just controlling your emotions, you know what I mean? Being accountable, stop being so selfish, and having, some type of purpose. Because I think they've lost a lot of that because they see people fucking making millions of dollars fucking Twitch streaming. So
this is actually an interesting subject. I was talking about this with somebody I'm close with not too long ago. Is imparting behavior on people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you can teach somebody to do, a task or something like this. You take this, you put it together with this, you got that.
Yeah.
But behavior is not so easy to teach without actually being an example of it.
Yeah.
And so all you have to do is live what you're trying to get across.
Yeah.
That can be hard too, and a lot of times, we always fall short, we always miss the mark, but it's the self-correction and stuff like that does end up being value. And that is actually a sign of accountability, so you realize, okay, man, I really fumbled that or something like that, but I'm going to, double down and do better next time, and then it's also just the discipline of just doing what has to be done.
Yeah.
There are things that have to be done. It doesn't matter if it sucks, if it hurts, you don't like it, some things have to be done. You just do it.
Well, I agree. And I think there was one of the guys here, he actually told me that he works with some younger guys, and he says that sometimes I like the way he said it. Sometimes I get frustrated with them, and he said that one night he was pretty frustrated with a couple of the guys. He kind of slept on it and kind of said, basically was like, God, give me a little bit more patience to kind of help these young men kind of on their way. And that's the thing is, I think about to me, I'm always open to helping people, but I also know that people have to be receptive to it and want to take advice. And I meet some of the guys even here that they want to talk about stuff, whether it be they want to know about the military or law enforcement. Some of the guys want to talk about the podcast. Some of the guys, a lot of people I find, I think they like that there's more men speaking up, so they don't feel alone. I think a lot of people felt like, I don't want to say I support the conservative movement or Trump or anything, because they're the bad guys in their friends' eyes. And as men, you have to understand, it's fuck what everyone thinks. If it's right, it's right. Sometimes you just gotta stand on your own. You gotta stand by yourself until other people stand with you. You know what I mean?
And then also objective thinking has to come into play.
Yeah.
So if somebody could call me the worst names in the world, I'd say, well, if you looked into that and really seen it, you really found examples of that being true.
Yeah.
Cite me a list.
Yeah.
Then we can actually talk about whether what that person just said has any weight.
Yeah, and I also think if it's not true, it doesn't come off offensive to you. So it's, oh, you're a fascist. Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't have any value. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, it's like you're saying a meaningless term. Not only have you made it meaningless, it's like it does. You even know what that means, and it's like, and it doesn't have any. And if I don't think that I'm like that, and I've never displayed anything that's like that, why would I believe that? And the thing is, that's kind of what I noticed, because I had one where I think it was Pete Hested, and he did his speech for the generals, and then I had I think it was a girl message something about like, oh, you know, you guys in the military have been manipulating this and that, and my first question is, have you ever been in the military? That's my first thought. And looking at Paige, I was like, no. So you're telling me how we should feel about something that you've never been a part of. Never been a part of, don't know what it is, and don't know that's having speeches like that is one of the most common aspects of the fucking military. The thing that was making everyone so offended, and that wasn't even like an offensive speech. I've seen some offensive speeches where it's like, you know, get your fucking shit together.
Exactly.
So that wasn't offensive. So to me, that tells people like, you're trying to understand a culture that you've never been a part of, and if you want to understand it, then go be a part of that culture. If not, then you got to stay out of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really, you can have your opinion on it, but you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, if you thought anything Pete Hegseth said was like offensive, you never had a DI breathing down you know, right in your face. It's man, yeah. So,
yeah, I think it was pretty much it. Unless there was anything, Dave, that you wanted to touch on, anything else?
I think we're doing pretty good, man. I think we touched on a lot right there.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do all the plugs for everything. Again, Gain Station, thank you for letting us do the podcast here. And
absolutely,
we're gonna do them here for the future, and I think that's a really cool thing. The setting looks really cool. It looks good. It looks good in the imagery and everything like that.
I think this is a good spot for it, man. You're gonna do well here.
Yeah, everything kind of falls into place in that way. EZF Media for always helping us and doing all the podcasts, all your podcasting needs. Make sure you hit up Miguel. For Dave for being my co-host. He's gonna be my co-host for our time being here. I think it works both ways for both of us. I think we kind of have, and then I think when we start bringing in like guests, it's gonna be better. It's gonna be even a better dynamic of doing stuff.
Definitely,
we'll get Brandon in here. We'll drag him in here.
Yeah, kicking and screaming.
Yeah, and then also make sure you want to support the Good Leader brand at goodleader.shop. That's where you can find any of the merch. Because I always have people like messaging me like, where do you put your shirts? And I'm like, I put them there. Like I don't just carry them around with me.
Right.
So if you're ever interested in anything like that, you can check out goodleader.shop. And I think that's it. And then if anyone wants to be a guest that's local in the area of Paso Robles or Ventura County, hit us up and let us know. We got some guests lined up, but if you're interested, let us know, and then you can come on. And even if you don't agree with us, you can come on. Just remember, be respectful.
Anybody wants to stop by the Gain Station at any time, just try out the gym, give it a shot. Your first day passes on the house.
Yeah, that's a lot of people have been asking me about that. Actually, about they're asking like what, like a lot of people are like interested in what the prices or deals or anything that's going on. So yeah, definitely come by and see Dave, see what's up.
Absolutely.
Cool.